By believing and hoping that artwork has the power to take these eternal truths and present them to the world. And what I find myself doing and believing is that if I can take that perfect part of Christianity and create the perfect sculpture, I can change people's hearts. I can create a way that people can come closer to God. And I oftentimes think that I'm only getting good right now at the age of 52. And I'm thinking, I'm developing all of this skill, I'm developing all of this power as a sculptor, and I'm going to die. That's horrible. But then I thought, well, maybe I am going to be sculpting in heaven. I do believe that there is a reason for what someone does throughout their life. And maybe this is just kind of a warm-up for the type of sculpture I'm going to be creating in heaven. But that is absolutely a fascinating thought about the growth of artwork. And the more years I create, the more I see the possibilities with artwork. Artwork and spirituality has always historically been connected. So to pursue this and to give it everything, to use sculpture as a form of evangelizing is my purpose, really. My name is Timothy Schmalz. I'm a Catholic sculptor. I've been sculpting obsessively for more than 30 years. And I went through kind of an artistic crisis when I was in my early 20s, and I began to question the value of spending my whole life actually creating sculptures. I actually was inspired, and I kind of reclaimed my fascination for artwork by my inspiration of the masters, the great artists of the past. And at this point in time, I rejected what was really being presented in the modern mainstream as artwork. I felt there was a huge emphasis on shocking art. If it isn't shocking, it's not art. And I thought back about the artwork that I really loved when I was a teenager growing up, and it was the great masters. It was the great Christian artwork. And at that moment, I realized that there is a massive connection. There's a link between the value of the artwork and what the artwork is actually represented. And so in a sense, I came up with this understanding that in order to have a great piece of artwork, you need a great subject matter. And so throughout the decades of sculpting, I realized that the thinner, the more transparent I create my artwork, the more that message can shine through. And so really I began to realize that the art was just a tool or an instrument to convey a message. And depending on how valuable that message was, would depend on how valuable my art was. And that's how I perceived it. And I began to realize that other people saw the same and kind of had the same reaction to the artwork. I think that artwork and spirituality has always historically been connected, and it's only perhaps in the last century and a half that there's been kind of this separation between spirituality and artwork. It always was used as a tool to get people to become more spiritual. And so it's interesting that these ideas that I have that are not my own, they're historical, seem so weird and new within our culture today. And so to pursue this and to give it everything, to use sculpture as a form of evangelizing is my purpose, really. Started out, I would consider myself a professional sculptor when I was 19 years old, when I dropped out of art school and I just started to full-time do artwork. That's when I had what I would call an artistic conversion. I had a conversion before that when I was baptized Catholic, but it was when I was 17, I had a eureka experience, and I identified myself as a Catholic, as a Christian at that moment in time when I was 17. Before that, I was pretty much agnostic. I went into the art schools, and one of the things that I found was that I quickly came to a dead end of art. I became dead in my spirit about doing it. And there is a limit to that type of artwork, the modern artwork, that you reach if you do it very intense like I did. You will reach that pretty quick, and I did when I was like 19 years old. Then I thought, what's the sense? What's the purpose of it? And I was coaxed by my art school and by the surrounding pop art culture to continue to do the shocking. And only if it was new, it was valid. Only if it was never been done before, was it considered artwork. So it got to the point where, and it does in our culture, go to the point where people are pursuing not beauty, not truth, but innovation for the sake of innovation. And at this point, at the age of 19 years old, I began to think, well, there must be something more to art as opposed to just finding the most shocking thing and creating it. And at that point in time, I remember this one night, I had a dream. And I spent the rest of the day, the next day, actually sculpting that dream. It wasn't anything profound. It wasn't anything more than a normal dream a normal person would have. But I spent the whole next day working on articulating and giving form to this dream. And I thought, well, who the hell am I? Why am I so important that I'm a professional Tim Schmalz dream interpreter into art? And I just felt that it was so kind of indulgent and so selfish. And that was a turning point where I thought, and I moved my whole world of artwork into doing spiritual, religious artwork. I looked at the artwork that I loved in the past. I looked at the great artists, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and I realized they had a common subject matter, a common mission, and that was to represent something epic. And that's why I believe that their artwork was epic, is because what they were representing or trying to give form to was so powerful in itself. And so I dropped out. I probably did one of the most radical things when I was 20, 21. And that is, I converted my studio, in a sense, into only Christian sculpture studio. I didn't worry if what I did was done centuries ago, done 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. I just took a representation of Jesus, I took a representation of Mary, and I just started sculpting. It was that artistic conversion and the feeling that I got from actually creating Christian subjects and bringing them to life, that I just became absolutely devoted to celebrating Christianity through artwork. And there was no going back then. When I decided to only do Christian artwork, it was like that reunification. Christ helped me in one of the darkest periods of my life, and I knew he would again. But then I thought, well, it's not just for darkness, Tim, it's also for light. And it's also to celebrate the positive aspects of life. And so I brought my faith and my beliefs out of this ghetto, out of this dark but very real ghetto. And I tried to bring it into my life in a way that would be not only enjoyed by me, but by other people. I would almost say that if we're not going to preach properly, we might as well just keep our mouth shut. And I think about that with my artwork all the time. I better do a good job, or it's not only going to be invisible, but it could be detrimental. So these are some of the thoughts that during my formative years as a Christian sculptor, I was very sensitive about. I would say the most popular sculpture that I've created of Jesus is the homeless Jesus. It is being installed all around the world in some of the most historical places. The representation of homeless the Jesus, in a sense, attacked me. It came to me. I was in one of the major cities in Canada, Toronto. I was walking one of the busiest streets right before Christmas, and I saw this human form covered with a blanket or a sleeping bag. And it was such a haunting representation in the busiest street, in the busiest part of the day. And there I saw Jesus, and that was what I felt deep inside me. It was like a slap of my soul at the time. And I went back to my studio, and I couldn't get that image, couldn't get that experience out of my heart. So I decided, I'm a sculptor, I might as well try to give it representation through my artwork. And then I created the homeless Jesus, which is a very haunting representation of Christ. And I think the powerful thing about it is that it's almost a visual translation of the scriptural text, Matthew 25, where Jesus says, whenever you have helped the most marginalized in our community, you are directly doing that to me. When I created the sculpture, what I had is a change from my initial vision of seeing that homeless person on the street. I moved up the blanket on the feet just a bit so you could see the wounds very subtly within the feet from being on the cross. And so the sculpture initially when people see it, they see a homeless person. And only when you get closer up to the sculpture, do you actually realize it's Jesus. What I would believe a perfect Christian scriptural-based sculpture should do, and that is be as shocking as the text itself, but no more. And so this sculpture has so much awareness of what Jesus wants us to be aware of. And so it is basically an instrument. It's in a sense a tool for that. What was amazing about the piece is that it was arranged that Pope Francis would bless the original model. And I really felt that this is a sculpture that was very close to the ideas that Pope Francis wants us all to share and to promote. When I presented the sculpture to Pope Francis, it was an amazing moment because he reached out to the sculpture and he put his hand on the knee of the homeless Jesus. And then he took a moment in prayer. Very, very meaningful moment to have Pope Francis bless the original model of the piece. And afterwards, he mentioned to me that it's an excellent and beautiful representation of Jesus. After Pope Francis blessed the original model, the sculpture was further installed in many different areas around the world. And to me, it's a big responsibility to do more, because there's not only one gospel, there's four. And I think that there could be 400 different ways of representing some of these very special passages and some of these messages that Christ wants us to live. And so it really gave me courage to continue to explore different ideas and to bring out more of what's hidden within the Bible. I felt that I had a massive responsibility, a responsibility that I had to even work harder and harder and focus and focus. And like I mentioned before, and like I always think that my sculpture is just a skin over something special. And so what I'm always working on is trying to find the way to represent what is the most important. So right now, I'm at the source of Christianity. I'm working on the Passion of Christ. And this is a massive project that is going to have 14 stations of the cross. One of the great things about where I am right now in year 2021 is I can look at what everyone has done behind me in history, and I can also look at all my other sculptures that I did, so I have those to compare it with, and I can pull things that are great from it, and I can discard the things that didn't work. And so on this project, I feel like I'm a director of a big play. The beauty of sculpture is this is like a film that eternally is playing, and you don't need a television for it. You just need to come and approach it. And it's tactile, it's physical, and it's going to be there for centuries to capture people's attention even for 1 minute today. And so, I also believe that it's not the responsibility of the viewer. The burden is on me to make the biblical message seeable, to make it visible. It's not. I'm not asking very much of the people looking at my sculpture. I'm the one that's going to do the work. I better do something amazing. I better create something that the person will want to stand there for 15 minutes to look at, not feel like they're forced to, right? And I believe that artwork has that power. I believe if I work hard enough, I can create it, and I can convey the passion of Christ in a way that will convert even the most cynical 17, 18-year-old out there. And that's my audience. I'm not really concerned about preaching to the choir. I'm concerned about reaching those people that for some reason have closed off the idea of God. And so if I can do that, if I can do that, I've succeeded. If I'm only going to be appreciated by people that have already found their faith, then it's not evangelizing to the extent that it could be, right? So to pursue this and to give it everything, to use sculpture as a form of evangelizing is my purpose, really.
Problems, worries, sadness. Are you seeking solutions? Bible says, do not be anxious about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Choose faith over fear.